So let's get into how humbucking works in a guitar pickup called a humbucker. Now, the direction of movement of current in a coil depends upon the direction of change of the magnetic field. If the magnetic field changes one way, the electricity will move one way down the conduit or the copper coil. If the magnetic field changes the other way, for example, in the first case going toward the coil, in the second case going away from the coil, then the current will move the opposite direction within the same coil. So the direction of the magnet, whether it's approaching or going away from the coil, will determine whether the current goes this way or that within the copper coil. Now let's imagine we have two identical copper coils, each with an end, like an end here and an end there. Here's another coil with an end here and an end there. We'll call one end B and the other end A. Same on this coil. We'll call this end B and this end A. All right. We expose both coils to the exact same environment of magnetic interference, magnetic changes in magnetic fields from surrounding electronic devices, and etc. Now this means that because they're identical coils, we orient them the exact same way, we expose them to the exact same magnetic fields, they both have their current moving in the same direction. If the direction of current is this way in the first coil, it's also this way in the second coil because they're being exposed to the same change of magnetic field, whatever that is. So let's imagine that we were to connect, let's call it the output. Let's call A the output and B is the input to the coil, okay? So we have a coil with B at the top. There's A. If we took the B connection from the second coil and connect it to the A, we'd have one great big long two-piece coil, right? Connected. And all of the noise would be the same. All of the changes in the one coil would move in the same direction as the changes in the second coil. We'd have this great big cascade of current caused by the magnetic fields changing in the surrounding area. And we could hook up that coil to an amplifier and hear that hiss, that hum. So now imagine that instead of connecting the A end of this coil to the B end of this coil and making one great big two-piece coil, we instead connected the coils so that the outputs, the A's, fought each other, okay? So there's the B's, there's the A's, the current's moving this way, the current's moving this way from B to A, and they're meeting in the middle like a traffic jam. Well, what's happening is at that A point, the conflict, which is equal because both of those coils are being exposed to the same magnetic interference, right? The same magnetic changing fields, because the coils have the current moving through them in the same way. When they meet at A to A, they cancel one another out. There's no flow. So now we were to hook this pickup up, or this coil up, this two-piece coil up to your amplifier, what would you hear? Nothing. There's nothing going on because the movement of the current in one coil is being canceled by the movement in the other coil, right there. In other words, we're bucking the hum by, instead of putting our coils in a line like this, instead of putting them A to B, we're doing A to A, and they're canceling out. In other words, we're bucking the hum caused by the surrounding changes of magnetic fields in these various devices. So now what we're going to do is hook up the other bobbin. All right, so we had connected just the green wire before, which was the finish wire, or the finish side, or the finish end of the coil on the screw coil. So now we're going to disconnect the finish end from the screw coil and connect it to the finish end of the slug coil so that the two finishes are fighting one another. The current's going this way and they're meeting each other at where they join. And that should cancel the hum that's being picked up by the two coils, because the two coils have the current moving in the same direction, such that when the ends are connected, the current should be largely stopped. Not perfectly, but largely. So we're going to disconnect the green wire, and then we're going to attach it to the end wire of the slug bobbin. So that means we're going to be connecting the white wire from the slug to the green wire from the screw side. And then we're going to be connecting the remaining wire, the red wire, from the slug side to lug number 1 on the potentiometer. Just going to heat the terminal, or the lug. Pull the wire away. There we go. All right, so we've got our finish end from the screw coil here. We're going to connect it to the finish end of the slug coil as soon as I get this tape off. All right. So the finish end of the slug coil is the white wire. And so we're just going to take those two wires, put them together, solder them together, and then I'll put a shrink tube on there just to protect them from touching anything else. That's good. And then what we're going to do is take our red wire, which is our start wire from the slug coil, and we're going to attach it where we have the green wire, right here on lug number 1 of the potentiometer. These Explorer chambers do not give you a lot of, it's a little hot, do not give you a lot of room to play with. Okay, so now that we've got both coils connected and we've got the finish ends of each coil fighting one another, touching one another, and we've got the start end of this coil grounded, and we've got the start end of this coil heading out to the output jack. Well, actually it's going to the switch first, but it's on its way to the output jack. We should be able to get the same kind of humbucking here as we were getting with this pickup here. Okay, so now we've got both coils set up, both coils connected. The finish leads of both coils are connected to one another. The start lead of the screw coil is attached to ground, and the start lead of the slug coil is attached to our hot or lug 1 on our volume pot right here. And so let's start with our neck pickup. We'll listen to it. There is a magnet in this one. There's not a magnet in this one. The noise that we're going to hear is from the computer itself. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. I'll plug in the computer. You can just hear that's the power coming on. If I take the power cord off, put it back in, makes the sound. So let's listen to the neck pickup. No strings on. Magnet yes, magnet no. Okay, so on. And what you're hearing is the noise from the computer. I'll demonstrate that by unplugging. All right, if I plug it back in, the noise will return. There we go. And that's this pickup alone that you're hearing right now. A humbucking pickup with a magnet in it. Now let's go to see what our other humbucker with no magnet in it sounds like. And again, it's bucking hum, presumably compared to the one coil that we did earlier. So you might ask yourself, well, wait a minute, if that's a humbucker, then how does anything ever get communicated to the amplifier? If we just take two coils, like a 2-coil pickup, and we always just connect the A's against the A against the A, so that the other one coil is canceling out the other coil, well, there goes everything. There's no sound. Nothing goes to the amplifier. Well, let's think about this. In a humbucking pickup, we don't just have 2 coils of wire. We've also got a magnet. So before dealing with the humbucker situation and a magnet, let's just go back to a single coil situation with a magnet. Okay, so in, for example, Telecaster and Stratocaster pickups, what they do is they create a bobbin with 6 metal pieces that have been magnetized, either so that the 6 that stand up, the 6 pole pieces that stand up have their north pole on this end, or so that they have their south pole on this end. You can do it either way. But the direction that you turn the magnets, whether it's north side up or south side up, those poles, are going to determine how the current moves in the coil. If you hold the coil in the same direction, but you switch the magnets, now the same magnetic change is going to cause the current to move in a different direction through the same coil. So now let's consider the humbucker, which is constructed differently. The humbucker has 2 coils, not 1, and it has 1 magnet, not 6. Instead of having 6 vertical, what they call rod magnets, it has a single bar magnet. So the coils are oriented in this direction, the bar magnet's this way, with its north facing one way and its south facing the other. It's a flat bar, and it's charged so that one side is north and one side is south, okay? And the magnetic field comes around from those 2 poles. So if we take a bar magnet like those used in a humbucker, but don't hook it up like a humbucker. What if we just take 2 coils, just like we talked about before? Coil A, so the coil goes from B to A, and another coil goes from B to A, and put the coils all on the one side of the north field. So we don't expose the coils to the southern pole of the magnet, just to the northern pole. Well, now it's going to be the exact same situation as we had before with 2 coils and a single magnetic field coming in. All the current is going to move in the same direction through the coils, from B down to A, and if we oppose them, they're going to cancel out. All right, so that's if they're both coils exposed to the same polarity, the same, in this example, north coil. But if we take a single bar magnet, one side of it is north, the other side of it is south, and we put 1 coil on this side so it's exposed to the northern field, the northern polarity, and we take the other coil and we put it to this side of the magnet where it's the southern polarity. Now, whenever the magnetic field created by this magnet is changed, the coil that's closest to the northern polarity will have current in it that's moving one way, but the coil that's closest to the southern polarity, the southern pole, will have the same movement, but in the opposite direction because it's at the other polarity of the same magnet. So the same magnetic field is being manipulated, but on the north end, it's causing current to move this way, and on the southern end, it's causing current to move that way, or vice versa. When we expose the A to the A, we now have a situation where they're not conflicting anymore because this coil was exposed to the southern magnetic pole. Its current went from B to A, and this coil was in the northern magnetic polarity, and its current moved from A to B, the opposite direction. So if we go A to A, we have current moving from B to A in this one, and from A to B in this one, all the same direction. Why? Because the same magnetic field was exposed, half of it to one coil and the other half to the other coil. The northern polarity was exposed to one coil and the southern polarity was exposed to the other coil. And that caused the current in one coil to move in the opposite direction from the current in the other coil. That means when we put our A to A, we did not cancel out the current that was caused by the string moving in the magnetic field caused by that single bar magnet. One string caused this current and caused this current, and when we connected them together, it wasn't canceled out. It just kept on moving in the same direction. But at the same time, that same coil was exposed to all of these other magnetic fields, and we know that they were all coming from a single direction. So if they, let's say the light is across the room but close enough to the pickup to affect it, it's hitting both coils with the same pole, the same side of its magnetic field. And therefore, it's not like going this way and then going this way, it's going this way. As we were talking before, they're moving, the coils are having their current move in the same direction such that when we attach A to A, the current caused by that light over there that's exposed to both coils equally is being canceled out, even while the current from the string in the magnet that's midway between these two coils is not being canceled out because we managed to position the magnet such that it was between the coils. That's the key. If the magnet is outside of the two coils, then both coils will be exposed to the magnetic change the same way, and will cancel one another out. But if we situate the magnet between the two coils, we have differing polarities on the two sides of the magnet, which causes the current to move this way in one coil, that way in the other, such that when we connect them, the signal keeps going through, even while the same coils are canceling out the magnetic radiation that they're picking up from around the room. So that's the genius of the humbucker. It cancels the magnetic changes that are happening over there while simultaneously allowing the signal to continue if it's the one that is resulting from a change in the magnet that is between the two coils. So we know that Eddie Van Halen in 1977, when he recorded the first Van Halen album, used a single humbucking pickup just like the one we're talking about. It canceled out the magnetic changes that were happening that were perpendicular to the pickup, but that were not from the they were magnetic fields not created by the pickup, but were external to it, while allowing the strings to manipulate the magnetic field caused by the bar magnet that was within and between those two coils of his humbucking pickup. All right, so let's make ourselves a magnet. And I mean make a magnet because a magnet doesn't start off as a magnet, it starts off as a bar. In this case, that's a 5. So that's Alnico 5 is what that stands for. I don't know why they put an S there for a 5, but that's what it is. This is an unmagnetized bar. And humbucking magnets are magnetized on the two sides right here. Not the top and the bottom, not the ends, but on the two sides. The south side normally goes to the screw coil, the north side to the slug coil. If we have a look, we can take a magnetic tester here and see that nothing happens. All right, there's no magnetism involved with this bar. In this metal box, in which I stored the magnets we're going to use on a wooden block to keep them apart, I'll just show you. These are strong magnets. Okay. In fact, these magnets came packaged together, but I can tell you those are not easy to take apart, even though that one's wrapped in bubble wrap and that one's wrapped in cardboard. These are very strong magnets. I'm going to take this one and take it off the table, in fact, altogether. And I'm going to just deal with this one here. Now this magnet, we can see that it's black here. If we turn it over, it's white. It flips depending on whether we're north or south, okay? I think what we'll do is we will mark with a pen what side we're dealing with. Black is south. So I'm going to make a mark that says that this is south. And that naturally implies that the other side is north. Even the detector wants to, it's how strong that magnet is. Okay, let's get this magnet out of the way so it's not flying into anything else and sticking to it. And we'll do the same thing with this magnet. Black is south. All right, so in this box, I've got a vise, which I picked up. Didn't cost too much. I think it was, 20 bucks, something like that. And it's, I want to say Home Depot. And all right. So I'm going to put the wooden block I had here. And I'm going to take out the magnet. test it one more time before I... Oh! That's on there, but not the way I wanted it. I actually cut my finger. Look at that. That's how strong these magnets are. All right, let's try this again. I think what I'll do, push it in like that and slide it across. I'm actually going to need to bang it a bit. That's in there, all right? And this is our south right here. So now what I have to do is put the north facing that way, which I'm told won't be an issue. But it turned out to be an issue this time, so let's find out what weird and wonderful things happen. All right. I'm going to store it like that for obvious reasons. I don't want to take any chances whatsoever. But in the meantime, we can take our magnet here, and it's just a bar of steel at this moment, right? And let's mark the north side with a bit of a dot on the side of the magnet. All right. That's how we'll know that this is north. And the reason I want them closer together is because they need to be close enough to get the magnet magnetized. All right, I've got the, can you see that? Yeah. So the bar magnet's right there. I'm going to touch it with the other one. So I'm just going to move this a little bit between the magnets. And then I'll bring these magnets apart. Push this fella out a bit. Grab them with the pliers. Here we go. There's our red dot. That's giving us a white, which is what we want for north. We've got ourselves a magnet now, an A5 magnet to insert in the pickup. All right, so we've got our humbucker here. We're going to take our Alnico 5 magnet that we charged. I've marked that magnet right there. I don't know if you can see the red, but that indicates that this is the north side, this is the south side. So we want the south side to go against the screws. So we're going to turn it this way. And the wires are tucked in here, so we don't want to go in from this side. We'll just ruin them. We're going to put the magnet in from this side. It slides underneath. Oh, but first we have to loosen the 4 screws that hold the bobbins in, because they're going to be down a little bit too tight for the for the magnet to slide nicely under. So we're just going to back these screws off just a wee bit. That one's already backed off for some reason. So is the other one. Okay. All right. And now we'll slide our magnet in underneath the two coils between the slugs and the screws. Right there. And now we've got a complete pickup. So we can drop it back down in, put our ring back on, taking note that the pickup ring is not symmetrical. It's shorter on this side than on that. The deep side goes to that end, not to that end. So we're going to put our screw in here. Gently pull our pickup back up. Screw. That'll do for now. And then we'll put our 4 screws into the corners. All right, so we've now got the magnet in. We've got in the neck position our original Epiphone humbucker. Nothing's changed there. This is the pickup I've wound. It now has the screw coil and the slug coil wound in opposition, so A to A, B to ground on the screw coil, and then B to hot on the slug coil, just like in the diagram I'd shown. So now we've got the selector in the neck position. There it is. You can see it. I'll try and blow that up so you can see it. All right, so we've got the that's the neck pickup. We're going to switch now to the bridge pickup, and we'll see that the amplitude of this is nowhere near as high as it was when we had just the screw coil set up. Hey, just a quick note from future me. The reason that there's still residual hum, or at least one of the reasons why there's still residual hum, even with a humbucker, we've heard it with both the neck pickup that came with the guitar and with the pickup that I made, so it's not peculiar to my pickup. There are at least 2 reasons why there's hum. One is humbucking isn't 100% perfect in any pickup. I mean, maybe by chance it is, but you know, hum cancellation by humbucking is not perfect. It's pretty good, but it's not perfect. The other thing is that the kind of noise that is bucked by a humbucker is not the only kind of noise affecting your signal. And I want you to know that in a later episode of this series, I'm going to address that. So don't get disappointed. Humbucking isn't meant to get rid of all of the hum. It's meant to attenuate the hum. And that, by the way, is why you have, for example, pedals that are gain pedals, like distortion pedals, fuzz pedals, etc., that sometimes have a noise gate in them, so that, you know, when you're no longer playing, you don't just hear all this hiss and bother that's been amped up by the compression of the distortion process. They literally just say, if you're not playing, we don't hear enough volume, we're going to turn the volume off on the pedal. So I think the Van Halen amp pedal, you know, the amp in a box pedal, I can't remember what it's called, it has one, but it's not the only one. There's all kinds of noise gates built into pedals. So just to let you know, that'll be addressed in a future video. Stay tuned. You can even strum. At least based on the graph, I would say this pickup, which I deliberately underwound, is putting out a lot less volume than this one. All right. Let's just plug it into the little amplifier I've got and see how it sounds. This is the hum over the amplifier. I'm going to turn the amplifier way up. Too loud to play at this volume, but I'll keep my fingers across the strings. We're currently listening to the hum from the neck pickup. And now we'll switch to the hum. This is through the amplifier. The hum from the pickup that I just wound. It's brighter, but it's not really all that different in volume. That's the tone down. Now let's just play a little something in the bridge position. Definitely a lower output pickup. Nice and clean. I'm going to turn down the tone about a quarter step. All the way off. Let's give it a bit of gain, see how it sounds. In comparison, here's the neck pickup. And here's the new bridge pickup. Now, in an upcoming episode of the same series, we'll be talking about how what we've just talked about affected Eddie Van Halen's choices for how to pick a pickup and how to deal with the surrounding magnetic hum. See you in the next episode.